My name is David Liebenson. For those that don't know, I was a self-made entrepreneur who founded my own startups, one of which Kim Kardashian stole. Then Kim and Kris decided to kick me when I was down. They had their attorneys send process servers to serve me papers to pay their $400,000 in legal fees, harassing my family. They said that they were going to sue us for $5 million each if we didn't hand them the rights to Kimoji and for Kim to be able to do her own comment control project. Kim Kardashian RuinMyLife.com. I'm fighting not only for me, but for anybody that's ever been screwed over by the Kardashians or just anybody in general that has been screwed over by shady business practices.
We're going to be talking to the man who claims that Kim Kardashian ruined his life. David's going to share his story on how Kim took his business ideas and made a fortune off of them, leaving him with nothing. So let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are joined by David, and I'm so excited to interview him about his story with Kim Kardashian. If you guys have not seen that video, definitely go and check it out. But today we're going to hear the story straight from David. So how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad that people are paying attention to your story and that now we can really dive into it and hear from you what had happened. So, let's go ahead and go back to 2014. How did you initially get into contact with Kim Kardashian?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I actually had a case machine. It was a phone case company named Case Machine. And my cousin, Dan, and a friend of ours, Narayan, were in business together. And it was a startup, you know, that's kind of that was my thing. Self-made entrepreneur, starting companies, just trying to make it. And we were getting a lot of attention on our Instagram page for Case Machine. We came up with the idea to come up with an app because at the time it was still new, you know. So we were trying to figure out like how do we manage our content, how do we manage our comments and spam for the company, and you know. So we developed the app, Sensorgram. We filed a provisional patent for the information, you know, for the IP. We were trying to protect it and do everything we could. We then basically put it on the App Store for free while we were trying to figure out, you know, we're developing it for all the other platforms as well. We were reaching out to a lot of high profile pages, celebrities, large, you know, businesses that were dealing with similar issues as we were, you know, managing their comments. So we came across the Kardashian pages. Obviously, we reached out and marketed all of them as well. Not long after that, Jonathan Chebin, which food god, I guess, and one of Kim's friends from a while back. I don't know if they're still friends, but he reached out to me fairly aggressively the first time, asking, you know, for large percentages and
of
you know,
Sensorgram.
Sensorgram, sorry. Yeah.
And just so you guys know, Sensorgram was an application that would help, I guess, like content creators, you know, influencers to manage their comments, like their hate comments pretty much, right? So they can filter out certain words and things like that. So a lot of celebrities would like that because then, you know, their comment section looks all pretty and positive.
Yeah, it was before Instagram added it to their settings, you know. We're trying to secure that technology. You know, we were the first ones to file anything to you know, make that proprietary to remove unwanted comments from social media automatically. So she wanted to be a part of that. She actually used our app, and they were using it when they reached out, and Kim wanted to be involved in an anti-cyberbullying. You know, she wanted to start a foundation. She was, you know, going on that mission, and she wanted to be a part of ours. So she had Jonathan reach out. The first time we kind of had to, you know, ignore it. Most were excited because, you know, how much influence they could have, and it just didn't make sense because there was 3 partners and they were asking for like, you know, 50% or more, and so anyways, we iced that.
So did that conversation occur over phone call or email?
That was all through direct message on Instagram.
direct message on Instagram. So they kind of saw your business, they liked it, and they're like, you know, we want to get in on this, but they wanted to come in and take like a lot of it. And you guys were like, okay, well, we have a good thing going on here. Obviously, the Kardashians like want to, you know, jump on it. So maybe we should like hone in and like see what we could do with it by ourselves, right?
Well, we had momentum. You know, I had other interested parties. So, you know, we eventually we came to this decision that we would give it a shot. You know, we wanted to at least hear her out. So Jonathan reached back out to me again. It was another week or two later, and this time I had deleted our thread at that time. You know, Instagram was a little different, but I deleted our direct message. So he actually reached out on a comment on my actual feed on a picture, and said, "Hey, why'd you delete me? Kim's game is doing big numbers. You know, we need to talk." So then we got back in the DMs, and the next day, or he arranged it for Kim to call me the next day. I was at the time at my home in Oklahoma, and she was on a trip to Mexico or something, but she called me, and we had, you know, a 40-minute conversation about all the, you know, my cousin was also on the phone, the other partner. And, you know, we had a lengthy conversation about, you know, she was worried about her, you know, her daughter and her sisters and cyberbullying, and, you know, we touched on quite a few things and how her family would get behind this, and you know, it was you know, pretty significant. The New York Post actually released a recording back in whenever I filed a lawsuit, the failed lawsuit in 2019, that had got out, you know, our conversation, but nobody really put two and two together even then.
Yeah. How was her demeanor on the phone? Was she generally like nice, kind, excited? Like she just seemed like a fine person, or did you feel like
seemed pretty nice through the entire thing? You know, I had no reason to believe that there would be anything shady or scandalous going on. You know, she actually was pretty nice.
So, and I believe you all ended up meeting in person at some point. Is that correct?
Yes. About a week and a half later, we flew out to Calabasas to have the actual formal meeting and make the you know, the agreements. We basically already had the agreement and the original phone call to partner at that point, because we'd already went back and forth with Jonathan and the DMs, you know. But that was our time to like kind of nail it down, and it was just about Sensagram at that point.
So you were going to get on this like business partnership for Sensagram, and obviously the Kardashians are very well off. They've got a lot of like business business backing. Do you think you guys like showing up to Calabasas and meeting with them, were you as prepared as they were like for that situation? Like, no, like, so you're kind of walking in to the lion's den.
Hindsight, you know, obviously people make their, you know, they have opinions, and, you know, looking back, you know, could I have done a few things differently as far as, you know, having the right legal team and stuff like that? I was used to dealing with startups and small businesses, and, you know, in no way was it that caliber, you know. So they knew that, and they took advantage.
Oh, for sure. So you have this meeting, you're talking about Instagram, but while you're there, this is when you present the Kimoji idea. So you guys were already kind of like, you know, getting into the emoji space and working on other projects involving emojis. Can you just like briefly describe what kind of work you're doing there?
Actually, we did have 2 different emoji projects before we even met Kim Kardashian. It was you know, rewind a little bit, you know, emojis were very new. You know, at that time you had to like use a different app, and it was a process. And we were trying to get our Wall Street emoji project, and which was basically, you know, private jets and champagne bottles popping, you know, animated emojis, stuff like that. Just, you know, that kind of emoji. And then we also had like a sexy or dirty emojis as well, which is more like racy. And we were trying to get that approved through Instagram. It was kind of, you know, it was tough. So we were working on all that stuff at the same time, you know, trying to make it all work. And so what we did was we took those 2 emoji projects we already had, and we basically were like, you know what? I bet Kim would love if she had her own emoji. And we just threw Kimoji together. My partner, Narayan, is actually the one that like came up with that thought, you know, Kimoji. So while we were there pitching that project, we thought, well, let's just go ahead and we put it on our laptop that we took up there to show her the mock-ups and just throw the idea out there. We had 50-50 chance we thought she would even like it. And so that's what we did at the end of the meeting. We pulled out the laptop and we pitched it, and they went wild over that. Even
They
more
did.
wild than Sensorgram.
And the meeting was with both Kim and Chris?
It was Kim, Chris, their one of their attorneys, and two of their assistants, my wife at the time, and my two partners, Dan and Ryan.
Okay, nice. So they initially loved the idea. I mean, if you look now back in time, Kimoji was incredibly successful for the Kardashians. You guys thought of the idea, but she was able to weasel her way into pretty much you guys giving it up and her ultimately taking it. So let's kind of talk about where the rift began, because you mentioned your colleague Ryan, and I guess, and stop me if I'm wrong, but Ryan, I guess, took a screenshot of maybe some type of preference or settings that Kim had on her app. It wasn't like private information, but it was just kind of like words or phrases that she wouldn't want to appear on her Instagram that she was using Sensorgram for. And I guess he showed this to someone. This someone, I guess, told someone else, or it ended up back to Food God Jonathan. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember like what were the words or phrases that she didn't want like there?
So basically, it was a text message of Narayan telling his friend Alice that, hey, we're about to partner with your dream girl, because Alice was like obsessed with Kim Kardashian. Yeah. She like idolized her. So he was like just kind of bragging, you know, and he took a picture of a few words. It wasn't her private anything of her information, you know, where you could see like her name next to a word that's private. It was just like, and let me mention too, their legal team, we've requested through back and forth before I filed the lawsuit at least a dozen times. And for that exact evidence that they're talking about, that was so, because they threatened us for the $5 million each if we didn't turn everything over, because we had supposedly disseminated her information, her private information, all over Chicago. But
really, it was just a screenshot.
Exactly.
Just like,
it wasn't anything that could be used for that. And our legal team later, the intellectual property attorneys actually dug into that legal or that threatening letter, and the violation that their attorney Martin Singer put in the threat wasn't even applicable to what we supposedly had done. But because he was this major attorney that, you know, that the kind of guy that he defended Bill Cosby, you know, he's the bulldog that scares everybody to death. Like, I was shaking. I had a home. I had a family.
I know what you mean. There are so many scary, like, I've seen some of these lawyers too, where other lawyers are like, oh no, you don't mess with that guy because they're ruthless and they're expensive. So I guess Kim got word that this like screenshot was taken. There wasn't anything like damning in it. It wasn't like, oh, she had like a settings for, you know, Ray J's name to be removed or anything like that, right? Like,
exactly. It was just, no, it wasn't anything. No.
Nothing like
where that was what was so frustrating about it, because, you know, it wasn't anything like we were trying to start a business using her name, or, you know, like separately from, you know, what we were already working on without her. This was a project we were already working on. We pitched it to her along with another agreement that we were already making. And we were doing it for her with her likeness because it just made sense. You know, it's really hard to explain, you know, that. And I think the confusion is what they liked about it.
Yeah.
You know,
and so they took something minuscule, and then Kim was able to see this, and you believe that she had like maybe some aha moment where she was like, oh, this is some dirt on them. Now I can like take this and try to get them out of this project. Not only like, I guess, Sensorgram and Kimoji, or just, so both of them, right?
So what they sent the original threatening letter saying, hey, you know, if you don't stop whatever, you know, stop disseminating this private information around Chicago, we're going to sue you for $5 million. And then a day later, they send basically a release, a settlement agreement, you know, for us. They will give us, they will basically not sue us for $5 million each, as long as we hand over and sign over the rights for him to use Kimoji and then use her own comment control intellectual property as well.
So you did mention at some point in your story that you had a phone call with Kim. Was the letter, the threatening letter, the lawyers sent before or after that?
That was after. So before all of this, she called. This is about a week, maybe 2 weeks after the meeting. And we made our agreement 60-40 on Sensorgram, us. and 50-50 on Kimoji. Because it was just in addition to the existing project. It was icing on the cake. We're going to use that maybe to fund some of the project. Chris suggested that they knew somebody in the family that would be able to fund the investment. So after the meeting, Kim called again to verify. Well, first she said, "Hey, I'm really excited. Everything's a go on both projects." And it was just a great call. You know, we're all on
a
top
quick
of the
call.
5 minutes later, she calls complete opposite. Who's Ryan, and why is he disseminating my, why is he spreading my private information all over Chicago, like all upset? And we're just completely confused. Like, wait, what are you talking about? You just called us 5 minutes ago and everything was great. And what do you mean you don't know who's Ryan? Because like, we didn't know this at the time, but I'm just thinking like, what do you mean Ryan? Like, Ryan, he's right here.
Like, was he at that meeting in person?
He was.
Yeah. Okay. So we know who Ryan is.
Everybody knew who Ryan. Everybody knew who Ryan was. But and let me clarify that a little bit. What we uncovered after all of this had happened was in some of the emails we actually Kim had him saved in her address book as Ryan already, and I introduced Narayan to Kim on the emails as Narayan. Yeah. So the only person that would have ever told Kim Narayan's nickname was Ryan would have been if she saw that text message. Yeah. This is what we've, I'm not trying to be conspiracy theorists here, but, but
no, you're just connecting the dots. Oh, she obviously knows who he is.
So basically she said, "Who's Ryan?" But in her address book and on the email, her people and everybody's all referring to him as Ryan. So the lawyers actually caught her in that fraud and lie. So we're just like, and then the screenshots, and I have all this evidence. So the fact that it's just blatant fraud in multiple different ways. The call for Kimoji, that was fraud. Yeah. So it's just like, but these confidentiality provisions and agreements that they make people sign, it causes.
Oh, did you sign one of those? You had to sign NDA and stuff.
But this is what makes it so hard for us to do this right, is because they split us up. My partners, they feared to lose everything, so they went ahead and signed it. I was, this was my money. This was my hard-earned money. I busted my butt for this, and I couldn't process it. Yeah, what's going on.
Yeah, you didn't want to give it up.
No, I couldn't give up. It's just, you see them everywhere. You can't avoid them. They're everywhere. And then I love Kanye, but I hear a song all the time, Facts, where he says, Kimoji made $1 million a minute. We broke the app store. I'm just like, yeah, you did. But I didn't make $1 off of that.
Yeah. And that was your idea. And it's not just the Kimoji. It also goes to this Instagram, because at some point you bring up the CEO of Instagram, and you bring up the friendship that maybe Kim has with him, and the idea that she pretty much sold the process that you had created to him, or not, maybe not sold, but she
we don't know
him, and
I would love to know.
Yeah. Did she take I guess the rights to your Instagram work whenever she threatened you guys?
It was on the document, that the settlement release document. It specified for Kim to be able to use her own comment control intellectual property, which also, interferes with our patent that we just filed to try to secure that for ourselves. So, and I spent a lot of money trying to secure that patent. I had one of the best patent attorneys in the country. So this was a few levels of hurt on me. This just destroyed a few different layers, of security that I had built up. And, everybody's, I've seen some comments about, why didn't you secure this? Why didn't you secure that? I mean, I was trying to.
Yeah, you had multiple business ventures, and
the Kimoji thing, the fact that we came up with the idea and we had our existing businesses that were related to that, just because it was her image, the fact that, it was still theft. It was regardless, it was still theft. It's hard to explain,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's clear. And especially when I think nowadays emojis are so commonly used, but it was really the beginning of something new. And when Kanye says, you know, Kimoji made all that money, it's because it was something new. And it was like, I remember seeing it too. It's something that's like ingrained in, I think, everyone's memories when that came out, and you should have been able to benefit from that because it was your idea. And so was the Instagram. So when did you kind of realize that Instagram was like adopting that process and kind of screwing you over there too?
It was not long after we started uncovering the emails. You know, that was another uppercut. We saw that Instagram was using the Sensorgram process basically. And then so we started trying to dig in, you know, if there was any way that she maybe, you know, Kim could have maybe had something to do with that. And, you know, that recording that I talked about, the initial phone call that we had, the very first part of that conversation, Kim was explaining how she had her meeting with Kevin Systrom and how they had a whole division for removing comments, and they were totally against doing automated comment control. You know, and then all of a sudden, all these crazy things happen with us. She gets this release. She tries to force us to sign this release to give her the ability to use Kimoji and comment control. And then her and her buddy Kevin Systrom hang out a few times. And, you know, it's in the news where him and, you know, Kanye are hanging out, and, you know, Kanye's trying to fix Instagram and stuff back at that time. And then, you know, all of a sudden, like a year and a half later, this filter to remove comments is in the settings on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I know exactly what happened? Do I know exactly what Kim, Chris, you know, when that screenshot from Narayan was seen? Was it before I signed the NDA? Was it after? I don't know any of these things. I would love to understand what happened and not just be in the situation I'm in with no explanation from them. So, yeah, I mean, if I just want to hear what they have to say, that's it. Like, explain yourself.
Usually when you get into a lawsuit, there's like discovery, and you kind of like have an investigation, you figure that all out. So in 2019, you filed a lawsuit. Why don't you have those answers? Like, what happened?
For some reason, before we actually made it to our first hearing to you know, even to see if they're going to try to fight dismissal or anything, my attorney suggested that I voluntarily withdraw the lawsuit. His reasoning was I could always refile later. If I do it voluntarily, I could refile later, and I should go to arbitration, where my cousin Dan and Ryan are both trying to sort the case out. So, but he didn't explain to us the cost. Like, he came to us, this attorney, wanting to take the case on contingency, and he knew we were basically tapped out, and I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on a legal you know, budget right now. So for some reason, after we filed a lawsuit and after all the publicity from that, and we had some momentum, he suggested I pull it and go to arbitration. And then from there, it just died. And I honestly don't know what happened.
Do you think he was a good lawyer? Do you think he screwed you over with that?
Be careful what I'm saying here.
I mean, or do you personally feel like
clear what he did?
Yeah. Do you personally feel like that wasn't the best choice for you?
The one
in
comment
hindsight
that resonates with me is he said that he wanted to try to work this out on the golf course with their family attorney, Martin Singer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And if that happened,
you know, he was kind of like impressed with Martin Singer. You know, I feel like he
probably didn't want to burn that bridge. Like, he wanted to be in with the, you know, the big boys. And then
so we don't know what happened. But if Kim and Chris want to explain what happened and how we got so screwed, and they couldn't have been like, hey, you know, we don't want to work together because of Ryan. So we're going to buy Kimoji for this much, and, you know, we'll go our separate ways. There's, you know, many different ways that could have and should have gone.
Because this was withdrawn, you weren't able to see what Kim was going to respond with, right?
Oh, no. Well, during the process, we did. So before I actually threatened to sue and we filed a lawsuit, their team did offer us a very small settlement offer. And it came along with a percentage of Kimoji, but it was for the future percentage, you know, sales for the future. And they had just after that, 2 days later, released in the news that they were going to be doing business through Kimoji to KKW now instead of Kimoji. So our attorneys thought that they were offering on bad faith. And so that is kind of what triggered us to just go ahead and file a lawsuit.
And you said your two business partners did not take that route. Can you kind of explain what that other route they took is? I'm not familiar.
Well, they were still bound to Jam's arbitration, which is a private setting and it's retired judges. So, and it's basically, you just, if you got a couple $100,000 to go in and pay to play, you know, and negotiate and work with the you know, very rich in those kinds of situations, then it could be beneficial. But, you know, usually these arbitration settings are for people like this, where they don't want all of their you know,
baggage out there and stuff. Yeah. So do you know if anything has happened with your partners? Like, did they, or is that all private, like settled? You don't really know.
Right now, they since we didn't follow through with jams because of an attorney suggested that doesn't happen, because especially because I wasn't bound by it, I didn't sign. After the first attorney suggested we pull, you know, we go to arbitration, another attorney said no, don't. So at that point, that's when they went ahead and the arbitrator was able to give a default judgment to Kim, saying that we owed $400,000+ for legal fees. There was some confusion. People were saying that she countersued for $400 million. There was no countersuit. What it was the legal fees that they could have just not done that, but they wanted to. They basically spun that news story to show that there was a victory. But if you read closely, there wasn't a victory in court. Like they didn't win the lawsuit. They basically used that judgment, which was just a default judgment, like I said, from a private arbitrator judge, not like an active judge.
Did you have to pay that $400,000 or
no? They got to the point where they could try to garnish wages, they could try to take assets with it, but they haven't pursued it any further than that. And the only thing I can think of is as long as I keep my mouth shut, they won't try to take it from me. But I've just gotten to the point where I don't have those assets. I don't have 400,000. So now I have nothing to lose, and I just want this story to be out. So they could come after me and try to sue me for that 400,000 now. And you know, but like I said, these confidentiality agreements and these different provisions that they put in place to try to secure, you know, to try to control the narrative, they you know, they don't work unless you have something to lose.
What year was it when you first met Kim?
2014.
So about 10 years ago, what was your life like? Like, what, you were living in the Midwest, like, were you doing pretty well? Like, you know, obviously right now your situation isn't the best. So I just want to like kind of bring up some comparison. So like, what was your life like back then?
I was doing fairly well in 2014. I had worked hard, had savings, had, you know, a couple assets, had owned my home. And I had a positive trajectory, and it was looking bright.
Yeah. And I mean, you had really amazing ideas, so it was looking bright. So then all of this stuff happened, and now it's led to where you are struggling financially. So now you've ended up in Los Angeles. I've seen your sign around. That's actually what caught my attention, which I think is a brilliant idea, because it went viral, and people are I mean, every day it seems like it's still going viral. So people are really invested in your story. What's kind of your living situation right now?
Well, to save money, I've just been sleeping in my car for the past almost 6 months. It just makes sense. It's just me right now. And you know, instead of treading water financially and never being able to do anything, I've just, you know, this is just a good decision for me right now.
When did you get out to LA?
So I was in Arizona, actually. I do Amazon, and you know, I have Amazon routes early mornings and nights, and then I do DoorDash and Grubhub and whatever I can in between. And so basically my signs were working in Arizona while I was out there, and I just felt like, you know, I'm only 6 hours drive away from LA, and you know, that what better place to be than, you know, out here, especially to get their attention. So I just wanted to get attention on the website, and I figured I'd drive over here for a few days, do some signs, try to get some traction to the story. And I was going to drive back to Arizona, and, you know, but this just kind of got crazy real quick.
Yeah. So currently, is there a way that people can help support you, like some type of donating link or something we can include below?
Yes, actually. So I have a crowdfunding campaign through Indiegogo now. So many people, thousands of people have reached out and asked how they could help. You know, I have a GoFundMe, and it's never my plan to start a GoFundMe. I don't want people to have to pay for me, you know. Then my problem with Kim Kardashian, she needs to pay, you know, that's who should pay. But so since everybody's so supportive, and they they want, merch, and they want to help put up billboards. So we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
We want to put billboards. We want to a production budget. We want T-shirts and everything people are asking for. So this is a way for people to support through this campaign, Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And now you have the opportunity to connect with so many people who have like the time or the availability, the ability to help you out. Do you currently have like a lawyer?
Not at the moment. I've had a few people reach out wanting to help, but I'm just taking it slow and
weigh your options and figure it out. I think that like it's a tough situation, and obviously it's like expensive, but I think you're doing the right thing, because if you can, make some good connections and people who want to help you, obviously you've got a case here. You just need the right team to set you up for success. So, hopefully everything just continues to grow and you get more attention. I'm going to list everything below so you guys can go and donate to David, or you can go and check out his socials. Everything helps spread the story. And is there anything else you'd wanted to add, or?
That's about it. I just appreciate you so much. I don't know what to say. I'm so thankful. All the support. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the channel. Guys, comment below what you think. Check out his page, and I'll see you guys soon.